The mystery of the sealed garage. For years, it was nothing more than a rumor, a nondescript garage on the edge of the Neverland estate, sealed since Michael Jackson's death. Even his family had never set foot inside. No one knew the code. No one asked questions. But in 2024, during a routine estate audit, this door was finally forced open, and what they discovered didn't just surprise people, it raised serious questions. There was no dust or degradation. The space was immaculate, frozen in time. A turquoise Rolls-Royce still had a cassette of "She's Out of My Life" in the player. A matte black Phantom had no rear windows, only internal screens, as if it had been designed for someone who didn't want to be seen. But that was only the beginning. Behind it all, architectural plans revealed secret corridors and soundproof walls, a sealed room behind his closet, private letters, never-before-heard song lyrics, and crates stamped MJJ Productions that even the auction house had left untouched. Why had all this been hidden? What was he trying to protect or hide from the world? Whatever the answer, the opening of this garage may have revealed much more than anyone was prepared to discover. The origins of Neverland Ranch. What is Neverland Ranch? Located in Santa Barbara County, California, Neverland Ranch was purchased by Michael Jackson in March 1988 for approximately $19.5 million. Some estimate the actual amount at nearly $30 million. Formerly called Sycamore Valley Ranch, the estate spans about 100 hectares and was developed by real estate mogul William Bone, who built the 1,200 square meter French Norman-style main house in 1982. The estate also included formal gardens, a 4-acre lake with a waterfall, and landscaping evoking an English country manor. Once in Jackson's hands, the estate was completely transformed. Inspired by the fictional world of Peter Pan, Jackson renamed it Neverland and converted it into a Disneyland-style fairy tale retreat. He installed amusement park rides, a private zoo housing exotic animals like elephants, giraffes, tigers, and orangutans, as well as a full railway network. The Neverland Valley Railroad featured a steam locomotive named Catherine in honor of Michael's mother, and 2 different rail circuits crossing the property. Other additions included a 50-seat movie theater, a dance studio, game rooms, and several guest pavilions. Over the years, Neverland became both a personal refuge and an object of public fascination. Jackson hosted many children and their families there, often from disadvantaged backgrounds or suffering from illnesses, and famously hosted Elizabeth Taylor there as well. He hosted her 8th wedding there in 1991, and Oprah Winfrey interviewed Jackson at the ranch in 1993. The downfall and legal turmoil. Everything changed in 2003 when Neverland became the center of a criminal investigation. A massive raid was conducted following accusations of child abuse. The once magical place was suddenly plunged into shadow. Although Michael Jackson was acquitted of all charges in 2005, the shock was irreversible. He later admitted he no longer felt safe at Neverland. "It's not a home anymore," he said. "It has been violated." He never returned to live there. Burdened by legal fees and colossal debts, Jackson had to reorganize his finances. To avoid foreclosure, he entered into a co-ownership agreement with Colony Capital, LLC, a private equity firm that took over the estate's debt. The rides were dismantled and sold. The exotic animals, including the giraffes, tigers, and elephants, were transferred to sanctuaries and zoos. The estate was discreetly renamed Sycamore Valley Ranch, erasing part of its mythical identity. Despite several publicized sale attempts, some with asking prices as high as $100 million, no buyer came forward. The estate remained deserted, abandoned, and suspended in a strange limbo. Everything changed in December 2020 when billionaire Ron Burkle, a former advisor to the Jackson family, bought the estate for only $22 million, a surprisingly low price that Burkle justified as a simple real estate opportunity. The 2024 audit enforced entry. Since then, limited restoration efforts have been undertaken. Although the estate has not regained its former splendor, some iconic elements have been preserved, notably for the biopic Michael, filmed in 2024, which revived public interest and allowed for the temporary reconstruction of symbolic places like the station and the carousel. Today, Neverland sits in a gray area, neither a private home nor a museum open to the public, but it remains one of the most legendary and controversial properties in American cultural history. The discovery of the garage occurred during an in-depth estate audit ordered in early 2024, motivated by new legal, financial, and ownership reviews. A long-sealed structure on the Neverland Ranch estate was listed for inventory inspection. This structure, a reinforced garage hidden behind the main residence, had remained locked and intact since Michael Jackson's death in 2009. Notably, even close family members or estate staff had never entered it since then. The garage itself featured high-level security, built with a special rusted alloy door, a mix of steel and titanium according to some sources, and equipped with an old biometric locking system that resisted all conventional access attempts. Estate technicians, locksmiths, and independent security experts were summoned to force entry. It took several hours of mechanical work before the door finally gave way, revealing a space that had remained perfectly preserved for nearly 15 years. Treasures of MJJ Productions. What they found inside shocked even the most seasoned members of the team in charge of the Jackson estate. Far from the expected dust and decay, the interior was immaculate, filled with vehicles in perfect condition, sealed crates, personal items, and custom storage. It was clear that this garage was not a simple storage space. It was a true vault. Among the items found was a collection of rare and luxury vehicles, each maintained in near-new condition with tires inflated and chrome impeccable. The cassette players still held tapes. The glove compartments contained folded notes, and the trunks revealed vintage stage equipment. Several crates bore the gold seal of MJJ Productions, Jackson's now defunct entertainment company, and contained rare treasures, handwritten lyrics, unreleased demos, original stage plans, and confidential correspondence. Following this discovery, Julian's Auctions, known for celebrity sales, announced a future catalog of more than 2,000 items from the Jackson estate. Among them were iconic pieces of memorabilia, the famous sequined glove from Billie Jean, tour costumes, and even the original entrance gates of the Neverland Ranch. A portion of the proceeds, according to them, would be donated to MusiCares and other organizations supporting elderly or struggling musicians. Missing items and private documents. However, several items confirmed to have been found in the garage did not appear on the auction list. This absence sparked a wave of speculation among fans, journalists, and collectors. Were these items being held back to protect Jackson's legacy, or did they contain information capable of reviving old controversies? Sources close to the inventory, requesting anonymity, leaned toward the second option. Several of the crates found did indeed contain sensitive or deeply personal documents. Unfinished projects, detailed medical regimens, tour insurance papers, and estate security plans. A custom Rolls-Royce equipped with bulletproof windows featured a secret compartment under the back seat. Inside was an audio cassette labeled Private Mixes and a bundle of handwritten notes referring to a never-revealed concept album. A 1985 turquoise Rolls-Royce Corniche with a cassette of She's Out of My Life still in the player was considered a personal refuge for Jackson at the height of his career. A 1954 Cadillac Fleetwood, a nod to old Hollywood, reflected Jackson's admiration for history and classic Americana. A matte black Phantom 6 without rear windows was designed for private mobile meetings. It contained internal HD screens and advanced soundproofing, evidence of an extreme need for confidentiality during his final years. A beige 1993 Ford Econoline van, modest on the outside but totally redesigned on the inside, featured midnight blue velvet walls, a mirrored ceiling, reclining leather chairs, integrated screens, and even a functional Super Nintendo console, a true mobile creative studio. A leather notebook was also found, filled with drafts of children's stories, stage sketches, and character ideas for an animated series never produced. The secret security room revealed. Although many physical objects were included in the sale, estate representatives later confirmed that several of the items discovered in the garage would not be made public, at least not in the near future. This included personal demo recordings, private letters, drafts of unreleased tour concepts, and internal MJJ documents. The Jackson estate has neither confirmed nor denied if these omissions were related to legal issues, reputation risks, or a legacy management strategy. But according to an estate advisor, what we keep is not for the money, it's to tell the right story. The secret room is secured. The discoveries in the garage in 2024 did not only highlight Michael Jackson's taste for luxury and his artistic obsessions, they also revived one of the most controversial and disturbing questions surrounding Neverland Ranch: the supposed existence of a secret security room hidden in the main residence. For decades, its presence had loomed in the shadow of public debate, mentioned in court documents, whispered by former employees, and noted in investigative books and tabloids. But until the estate audit, no formal architectural evidence had ever been presented. That changed when, among the crates recovered from the sealed garage, a series of original plans and renovation diagrams were found. These documents included detailed plans of the main residence, particularly Jackson's private wing. In his master suite, just behind the dressing room, was an area clearly identified under various names: emergency enclosure, inner reinforced space, or second barrier room. Technical notes specified fireproof materials, steel reinforced walls, and a locking system described as manual unlock only, accessible only from the inside. Architectural evidence and allegations. Former employees interviewed over the years claimed that this room was not a myth. Several stated they knew of a hidden room accessible only through a panel concealed in Jackson's cedar closet. It was said to be equipped with internal locks, a sliding steel security bar, and an internal control panel. Once inside, the room could not be opened from the outside, not even with master keys or electronic systems. It had its own ventilation, a direct phone line, and even an emergency button linked to the security team. For some, the presence of such a space seemed perfectly logical. Jackson's fame had attracted obsessive fans, stalkers, and several intrusion attempts. By the early 90s, he had already begun strengthening his property's security after several incidents at Neverland, including home invasions. Panic rooms were becoming common among celebrities and billionaires wanting a refuge in case of crisis, and Jackson had the means and motivation to build one. What made these new revelations more unsettling were the additional architectural annotations found with the room's plans. Among them were terms like acoustic insulation, hidden corridors, and noise-canceling panels. Some of these additions were linked to other parts of the house, notably the upper floor and the rear wings, where the rooms and playrooms for guest children were once located. The presence of these devices raised serious questions, especially in light of the accusations made in documentaries such as Leaving Neverland. In this film released in 2019, Wade Robson and James Safechuck accused Jackson of sexual abuse while they were children, specifically at Neverland. Both men described rooms that later matched elements found on the plans: hidden rooms, private corridors, and an alarm system to warn Jackson of anyone's arrival in his suite. Safechuck specifically mentioned a secret room above the arcade and a bell system near the main hall, details confirmed by the plans found in the garage. Professional concealment and legacy investigators and estate archivists who examined these plans highlighted the precision of the modifications. A security specialist involved in the audit described the work as professional level in terms of concealment. Walls thicker than necessary, insulation designed to absorb sound, and electronic wiring connected to motion sensors independent of the main system. Although none of these elements constituted proof of guilt in themselves, their presence became troubling in the context of persistent accusations. Even within the Jackson estate, the revelation of the secret room caused tension. Some officials argued it served solely to protect Jackson, an understandable precaution for a global icon constantly harassed. Others more discreetly acknowledged that the image it projected was disturbing, especially considering what had been found in the garage: personal letters to special friends, drawings by children who had stayed at Neverland, and photos that, while not incriminating, revealed very intense emotional bonds with these young visitors, who were often his daily companions. Forensic experts who examined these materials did not go so far as to label the room as evidence of any wrongdoing, but the timing of its construction, its secrecy, and its location added a dark dimension to the history of Neverland. For some, it symbolized the isolation and paranoia of a man living under siege. For others, it reinforced the idea that Neverland was not just a playground, but a sanctuary meticulously designed to hide as much as to fascinate. What is undeniable is that this discovery has revived uncomfortable questions that the world thought it had buried. The plans, once sealed with Jackson's personal effects, are now a new piece of the broken puzzle that constitutes his legacy. At once genius, fantasy, and enigma, forever shadowed by allegations that continue to divide fans and detractors. Hollywood's return to Neverland. Hollywood's interest in Neverland has surged. The reopening of the sealed garage coincided with the highly publicized production of Michael, the first ever authorized biopic on the life of Michael Jackson. Directed by Antoine Fuqua and produced by Graham King, who was also behind the success of Bohemian Rhapsody, the film promised a sweeping epic tracing the rise, struggles, and legacy of the global superstar. The choice of the lead role further strengthened the project's emotional impact. Jafar Jackson, Michael's 27-year-old nephew, was chosen to portray him. "It's unsettling," confided a member of the technical team during the first rehearsals. "He doesn't just imitate Michael, he inhabits him." To faithfully recreate Michael Jackson's world, the film crew made a decision as symbolic as it was ambitious: to return to Neverland Ranch. Although the estate had been neglected or transformed since Jackson's departure in 2005, production teams began to rebuild several iconic elements of the site to restore its former glory. Satellite images and behind-the-scenes leaks confirmed the reconstruction of the iconic small train, the colorful carousel, the circus tent, and certain areas of the private amusement park. Some structures were reimagined from original MJJ production plans, while others were restored to the smallest historical details using archival videos and the help of the Jackson family. This rebirth of Neverland attracted intense attention from the media and fans, especially since it occurred just weeks after the opening of the sealed garage, which had been inaccessible for over a decade. The timing led many to wonder if the discovery of the garage was a calculated strategy to stir interest in the film. Others saw it as a coordinated attempt to rewrite collective memory, aiming to present Jackson no longer through the lens of scandal, but as a creative and complex genius. By revisiting Neverland and selectively revealing its contents, the estate and the film's creators seemed to want to regain control over the Jackson legacy, betting on magic, art, and nostalgia rather than controversy. No official statement directly linked the garage opening to the filming, but sources close to the production mentioned a real synergy. Some vehicles and objects discovered in the garage were photographed and used as reference material for the sets. Even if all the artifacts were not recreated on screen, their presence influenced the emotional atmosphere of the narrative, bringing a palpable authenticity to a film blending myth and memory. For many, this convergence of events, the rediscovery of Michael's private sanctuary and the cinematic resurrection of his public persona, marked a turning point in how his story is told. What began as a simple audit eventually became a deep exploration of a world frozen in secrecy for over 10 years. Behind that rusted door, there was not just a collection of luxury cars or forgotten memories, but a carefully preserved time capsule of a man who lived both in the spotlight and in the greatest secrecy. But now that the door is open, what should be done with what it contained? Should everything be revealed, or should the rest be left to rest in peace? Final thoughts and call to action. If this story changed the way you look at the hidden corners of history, please subscribe and like the channel. We are unearthing the history that they tried to bury. Let's plant the seeds for the future. The next treasure chest of history will be opened soon.